Exactly 1 week ago, I posted a video fully transforming my dream detail shop with Swisstrax tiles. Now, previously to that, I had been battling epoxy floors for years at this shop. They always looked dirty, they always stained, they were a pain in the butt to maintain, not to mention they had failed 4 separate times on me, been replaced 3 separate times, and I had had enough. After posting that video, you guys in the comment section had a ton of questions regarding Swisstrax. So I've had some time to wash some vehicles in here, get some really dirty cars in here, detail some vehicles, and I want to share my experience, answer some of your questions a week later. Welcome back to the channel. Let's jump into it. Well, if you haven't caught the first video fully transforming this detail shop, I'll leave it linked in the description below. If you're back here curious to see how my experience has been after washing cars and hopefully to answer some of y'all's questions that you had, glad that you guys are here. First thing off, I am just thrilled with how the shop came out. Now having cars in here, the shop just looks so much more professional. It looks clean, it looks tidy. But one of the things I was very happy with on the video that I posted is you guys had a lot of questions about these floors, and rightfully so. I am very much like a lot of you are in being skeptical about things, and I love when people ask questions. I really dislike just seeing something on the internet, believing it 100%, and not going, is that actually true? So a lot of questions came up about how my old floor was actually installed, my epoxy floors. We'll go through some of that. A lot of you were very, very concerned about the dirt and grime buildup, as well as just the overall wetness, because this is an area right here where my EV6 is that I actually wash and detail vehicles. So you guys were very concerned about the dirt buildup, mold, mildew, just sludge in general, and things like that. We'll cover the topic. I've washed about 6 to 7 cars at this point, I think now, and gonna be washing this car, showing you the experience washing with Swisstrax floors, because spoiler alert, they're frickin' amazing. Now, a couple of other topics that kind of came up is, okay, what happens if you're, let's say, cutting wood in your shop with Swisstrax floors here? How big of a pain in the butt is it to vacuum things up through the tiles, or do you have to tear up the entire floor? If you're wrenching on a car, what happens if you drop nuts, bolts, washers, things like that? Can you use a floor jack on these? We're gonna go through all of that and more, so hopefully this will really help you out. Now, one of the things that came up consistently throughout all of the comments section was talking about my old epoxy floors here. Now, a lot of you were claiming that I just used a cut rate company and spent no money to get it done professionally. I'll tell you, the place that I used is very highly rated. I've seen their work multiple times in multiple $1-million homes here. I actually know the owner, family friend of contractor who actually built this out, and I knew he was the right one to go through. They went through when they prepped the floor, because this was a blank shell before I moved into it. We built, all of the mezzanine and everything in here, cut out the floor drain, all the stuff like that. They went through, ground up the floor, getting it fully prepped. It's just like installing a ceramic coating. If you don't prep it properly, it's not going to adhere and it's going to fail down the road. And I think especially with DIY kits, that's exactly what happens. People just clean it. You're not scouring all of the concrete underneath. They went through and do that. Now, one of the other topics that came up was talking about the top coat. Now, for your information, I used polyaspartic top coat on top of the epoxy flooring here. Now, everybody, it seems, is, just an absolute master of the industry and says that their top coat's better than this top coat. From every bit of research I've done, I still chose the right top coat, being that it was polyaspartic. It's very chemical resistant, great for wet environments, doesn't yellow, has great UV inhibitors, all of that fun stuff. Now, if you have a differing opinion, let me know in the comment section below of what you would have recommended I should have used here in a very wet environment with a lot of chemicals on it. Now, the company that I used, I spent about $5,000 doing the epoxy in this entire shop, and they had a 10-year warranty, which is why the floor was replaced 3 separate times. Now, every time the floor would start to fail, it would continually get worse and worse and worse. I actually think this last install they did was actually the best, and it's held up the best for sure, but I am still showing showing signs of getting wear and tear on this floor, like cracks like this that just continually peel up. It's a little hard to see. I can overlay some clips, as well as areas like this. And for me, it just really doesn't look good. You can see here looks totally fine, but all of this is cracking and peeling. Now there's always topics of whether you should go over cracks with epoxy, whether it should go right up to the edge of it, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, the epoxy, not only with it peeling up, but just the overall dirtiness and griminess in here was an absolute freaking nightmare. So I believe we did the right thing with the epoxy company that I used. They stood up to their word. They replaced the floor 3 separate times, completely free of charge. Every time they did that, they'd come through here, grind the entire floor, which was an absolute flipping nightmare for me. If you can imagine a detail shop here that we've got cars inside, so I'd have to move everything out, all of the cabinetry, everything, all the walls covered in frickin' concrete dust. It was an absolute nightmare, and I am so glad that is in the past here. Now, a couple of other topics that came up and questions or concerns about this was actually for filming YouTube videos. And this was something that I didn't really realize at the time, but that a lot of you viewers actually pointed out. And that was filming just like this. Now, filming like this, we actually film on iPhones here Out of Spec. Makes our life easy. That's how we can consistently upload all the time. And filming in 0.5x, I went back and watched the video. I was like, you guys are absolutely right. You can see how the floor kind of flashes and dances. Now, typically, when I'm filming in the shop here, I'm in 1x zoom, and you can see the floor doesn't do that. So hopefully all of you are happy with this. I never really film in 0.5x. I was just doing that to pretty much be able to film the entirety of the shop and show you kind of what it looks like in a more fisheye view. So hopefully that clears some things up. Now, one of the main topics I want to focus on is covering this wash bay here. Again, you guys had comments and concerns. Hey, this is going to stay wet all the time. This is going to breed mold and mildew. It's just going to be absolutely nasty underneath. Like I said, I've washed 6 or 7 cars in here. Now, what I typically do after I've washed a car, I rinse the floor down. Yes, I think it makes total sense. If you're cleaning wheels, you're cleaning off dirt and debris, of course, all the dirt goes through this. It's just going to be sitting underneath there. Now, I have an AR 635 pressure washer up here, over 3 gallons per minute. So after I wash a vehicle, I come through here and I rinse the entire floor here in my wash area. You can kind of see how it's bordered here towards the drain or either outside. Now, after 6 or 7 car washes, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head here, I want to show you what it actually looks like underneath. So this is an area with a lot of wheel and dirt and grime under here. You can see the floor is pretty much nice and clean here. Now, there are some areas that are a little bit dirtier than others. So let's come over here. Let's pop this up right here, right next to the driver's side. And as you can see, looking actually pretty darn clean. And I think that is the one big benefit here. Every time I wash a car, I rinse the floor down. Makes a lot of sense. It's like maintaining something that if you just let it sit there, yeah, it's going to turn really nasty. Now, one of the things that is kind of an issue with my floor, when they actually poured the concrete slab here, they did a really terrible job at putting any sort of grate in it. So essentially where the EV6 is sitting is kind of a high point, and the water flows to that wall, to that door, to here, and this way as well. So that's one of the issues with it. Ideally, you would want this to be concrete grade basically from the back out towards that entire door. My floor doesn't work like that. So one of the big things you guys were concerned about was water in general. Now, I washed yesterday at about 5 p.m. I'm filming this at about 5 p.m. the following day. Now, I want to show you this floor here, completely dry. There are some areas that hold water. So when I came back this morning, this area over here, this is kind of a low spot in the floor. You can also see where I used to have my original border here for washing on the epoxy floors, because it would just sit and pool up here and I would have to squeegee it all the time. This area does stay a little wet overnight. By 24 hours, the floor is absolutely bone dry. So I can actually pull this up as well for you guys, show you what it looks like here. completely and absolutely bone dry. And this is a really cool thing with this floor. So if it gets to the point where it is just absurdly dirty and filthy in here, and again, I've been through here, I've washed out wheel wells, wheels, suspension, had some dirty cars in here, and it's been totally fine. That's the great part with these tiles, having basically the grooves underneath them and the ability for water to move around and dirt to be able to move around. With a pressure washer, it's not that big of a deal. But if it does get to the point, I can just tear this up in this wash bay section, pull it outside the door. I can use a floor scrubber on this, or I can just, do an immense deep clean on it, let's say every other month, maybe every 6 months, kind of depends. So I think this is working out actually surprisingly well. And again, the cool thing, once this goes back in, I just click it in here. Now, one of the other big concerns here was, okay, let's say I'm wrenching on my Model 3 Performance back here and I drop a very tiny little bolt or something like that, or an average drywall screw like this. So if I toss these on the floor here, you'll basically see they sit all on top of the tile. That's the one great thing with this. Now, there will be washers that will 100% go through this. One of the big benefits though is this floor, I can actually see where I frickin' drop stuff. On the epoxy, it was impossible to find anything that was similar colored to the floor because it was, gray with white, black, and some more gray specks in it. You drop a, silver colored something like this, I'm getting on my hands and knees trying to see the damn thing because my eyes are going completely cross-eyed. So you can see here, I can easily come through and pick these screws up. They're not underneath the tiles. It's really not the end of the world. So that has been hugely, hugely nice. I've got some metering tips right here. These little guys are pretty darn small. These are for a Griot's foam cannon. Toss those down on the floor. You can see exactly, they sit right on top. They don't go through the tiles. But yes, 100%, you can get stuff that will go through these tiles. But the great thing that I'm noticing too, as I just dropped that one, is they don't essentially fly as far as they would with epoxy. I swear every time I would drop something on the epoxy floors, I would drop it over here, it'd be way over there, it'd be underneath the car, it'd be underneath the cabinets here, and this just right here. So this to me has actually been an amazing benefit. I've built this little thing over here. We dropped pretty much every single one of these screws every single time I was putting this thing together. Sat on top of the Swisstrax. There was 1 or 2 small little washers that kind of worked its way under. Just grabbed my little tool, popped it up, got it, no problem. So it's really not that big of a deal as you would think. Now, one of the other big things in this particular area that I do, so you can see my Model 3 Performance is on the race ramps here. I've got a bin pack scissor lift underneath here. This is where I do my main paint correction. If you guys don't know, paint correction is a messy, dusty, disgusting process. You've got just dust particulates going absolutely everywhere. And I wanted to show you this because I actually wiped down all of this stuff. This is all the dust from all of that compound and polish residue that just goes absolutely everywhere. And rightfully so, understand this is going to go underneath the floor. Now, what I've been doing after I've been doing a full correction on a vehicle is coming over here, come through this door here, and I grab my Vacuum Aid Garage Vac Pro on all of this here, and I put the little wand on it, come through here, vacuum everything up. And one thing I was noticing is the compound was sticking to the tiles here. Go through, vacuum it, it's a non-issue. So that is something, when I would epoxy, or when I had epoxy floors, that I would try and keep this area as clean as possible, but it was just a real pain in the butt. You have a very textured surface on the bottom there that you're walking on, so you're just kind of scrubbing it into the floor, and the floor just always felt gritty. This will feel a little gritty, then I go through, vacuum it, and it just feels absolutely perfect. Before, I would have to get out all-purpose cleaners. I'd either have to pressure wash it, I'd have to mop it, do something like that. So that's been really, really annoying. Now, speaking of mopping, one thing I have noticed here was bringing cars in after I've actually done some washing here. So you can imagine, I wash the EV6 here. I typically wash the car, pull it outside, back it up into here. One thing that I noticed, outside we have asphalt that is, it's got a bunch of tiny little rocks and things in there, and it would track some kind of dirt marks here on the floor. So what I would do is just quickly grab a microfiber towel, wipe those up to keep the floor looking nice. Again, yes, it is still maintenance. I don't want you to think this floor is just like the magical snake oil that you never have to do anything to. Yes, it will still get dirty, but if you clean and maintain it, things are going to look better for a heck of a lot longer. So I've seen photos of, detail shops where the floors just look nasty with Swisstrax tiles. I've seen the same with epoxy. If you keep things nice, it's going to stay nice. Now, I did my best with epoxy, and the issue is, again, you've got water running everywhere. You're tracking stuff everywhere. Where this is sitting underneath it, the main wash area here, I just rinse it out. It's really not a big deal, at least so far. I'm not saying that this is, not going to be the point of I don't have to pull this up at some point and give the floor underneath a thorough scrub, but also at the point, I don't really care what the floor looks like underneath. If this floor completely tears up the epoxy from, driving cars and things over it, I could care less, because this is a floor, if I ever decide to move, I can take up this entire floor and go install it in another shop. I can't do that with epoxy, and that's one really nice thing. Now, again, a thing that I want to point out here, with these floors at my shop, this floor gets way more abuse than my garage at home, and it's completely different. Yes, we track in dirt and grime. Yes, we get some water off the cars after it rains or snow, but it's not like this where I'm physically washing inside of here. And that's been honestly the greatest thing. Areas like this where I've got my bucket fill here, when I would fill my buckets up or just get water on the floor over here, this is always kind of flooded. Now I can just turn this on, and everything is underneath it, and that's the really cool thing, and it all evaporates right through the tiles. Again, washed this 24 hours ago. The floor is completely bone dry other than now that spot. So that's been the really, really cool thing. So I did also get a couple of comments from, experts here that said, oh great, now you can't ever use a floor jack. And this is something that Swisstrax actually brings up on their website. So they're not just saying, hey, you figure it out, you screw up a tile, and well, you're SOL. Now, the cool thing with this, right, if you ever break a tile, if you ever melt a tile, like let's say you have a PPF shop and somebody sets, or a wrap shop, and you set a heat gun down on one of these tiles, being that they are plastic, well, it's gonna freaking melt. The cool thing is, like this, you can just peel up that tile, replace it, you're out $7 or $8, whatever it is, I don't exactly remember online, and that's one of the really cool things with that. So what Swisstrax actually says for jacking vehicles up is that you need some sort of plate, some sort of mat, something like that. Now, what I've been using that has worked actually really nice is this kind of home gym tile-esque flooring. So these just kind of click together. You can see I've got two of them there. The jack fits perfectly on it. It also helps for not having the jack slip all over. That is one thing with these jacks on epoxy, sometimes especially mixed with water. A lot of the times I use floor jacks here to remove wheels, clean up suspension components, coat the wheels, all of that fun stuff, is that not only would the jacks sometimes leave rust spots on the floor, which was really annoying, but also they would be a little slick and sometimes move. It really sketches you out. Now, I have seen people actually use floor jacks on the tiles without using any sort of planks or anything like that. For me, I think it makes sense to use something like this because you have a lot of pressure sitting down on the tiles, and clearly you can probably dent these a little bit. So let's lift this up here and I'll show you exactly how this goes. So this is a Kia EV6. This is an electric car. We'll just get the wheel off here, let it sit for a few minutes, and you can see the jack. The thing that I like about it, it can still roll forward as needed. And yeah, you have pressure points on the wheels and back here, more specifically up there. So I'll leave this sitting here for a few minutes. Actually, let's get this a little higher. It was already off, but that should be perfectly good there. And the other couple of things I've noticed with rolling around things around here, they actually roll really nice. I think looking at this floor, one of my main concerns, actually when I was out at SEMA 2025 and talked with Swisstrax, I was concerned about how chairs roll around here, because I was thinking, like, dang, you've got, casters on it. It's gonna be a pain in the butt to roll around. The jack rolls around easy. Having things like Viper chairs over here, stuff like this, I can just roll around all day. Now you can't can't actually see me here, but I'm rolling around on my Viper chair. This thing just rolls perfect. It's a non-issue. Yes, it is a little loud for sure. I will tell you that. It's a little vibraty, but things like this, easy to roll out. Really a non-issue. There is one issue though. And I will tell you this, there is no greater pain than putting your knees down on this floor to align a jack stand like that and have your knees feel that Swisstrax. That is the biggest negative I've seen so far with these floors. It is genuinely painful. So my recommendation, budget in getting a knee pad. And if you're constantly on the ground on your hands and knees with floors like this, you're gonna need a knee pad or something like that. It is excruciating very quickly. It is actually shocking how quick your knees start hurting, but that is definitely something I've noticed. All right, so now we've let this sit here, not for a super long time, but I think enough. If it's gonna do damage, it's gonna do damage. So let's roll out the floor jack. See, it just rolls nice and easy, not a problem at all. Still continues rolling here. And as I pull this back out, absolutely no damage to the floor, no indentations, anything like that. So again, you could use, wood on here. You could use a metal plate. I personally prefer these because I can just link them together, boop, slide them under there. I have, I think about, how many do I have? I have 6 of these. So, if I need 2 jacks, 1 on each side, I can do that. Not a big deal. These are really cheap if I ever need to purchase more of them for whatever reason. I'd always recommend, even if you're using jack stands, just throw one of these underneath, just not to mess up the floor. I have seen some folks using the Daytona branded, jack stands on there with the wider feet, and they don't seem to damage it. Again, why risk it? It's not that much money to replace a tile if you do damage it. So maybe some trial and error there, but this has worked absolutely perfect with me. Now, other than all the great benefits with Swisstrax, like the just overall aesthetic of this, the floor, at least on top, always looking perfectly clean, my favorite part about these floors is washing with them. Now, genuinely washing on the epoxy floors in here, again, with my floor setup, having pools everywhere and not having it drain to a drain perfectly or outside perfectly, I just was always just sloshing around in water. In fact, I actually had to purchase waterproof shoes to wash cars in the shop here because I would wash a car, let's say come in 8 o'clock in the morning, wash a car, my feet are soaked the rest of the day. It was absolutely a nightmare. This totally different ball game. So we'll go through here. I'll show you cleaning up the wheels. This car is not filthy. It does need a little bit of a bath though, so I want to clean it up. I'll show you what some of the dirt and grime coming out of here, wheels and stuff like that looks like on the floor, how I rinse it, and just overall how pleasant it is to wash a car on this. That far and above the biggest benefit to this. And again, yes, you get dirt under here. I'm not saying you don't get dirt. You go through, you rinse it, it goes through all the channels on the tile, you push it towards the drain, you push it towards the outside, wherever the heck you're trying to push it, and it's really a non-issue. Will it build up over time if you don't rinse your floors? Of course it will. That's called logic. That's how things work. But barring the fact that these actually let that water evaporate, I come back the next day, 90% of the floor is dry other than those few low spots. And by 24 hours, the floor is bone dry. Could not be any better. And this is my favorite part about it. All right, so hopefully you guys can see all of the purple, disgusting nastiness. The tires, again, they aren't super dirty, but the great thing is I'm not standing in a pool of it. It is below my feet here. So we'll just scrub down the tires. You'll see a little dirt and grime. These aren't super bad here. Again, probably should have filmed with this C8 Corvette that just had the nastiest, dirtiest wheels and tires, but my car needed a little bath. That car is already gone and away, so I figured, why the heck not? Let's just do this. Come in here, we'll clean all this stuff, and we just let all the dirt and grime fall to the bottom, and then before I leave for the night, I'll quickly rinse this floor out. We'll head home, come back the next morning, floors are nice, dry, and clean. So again, I want to show you, I've rinsed off this wheel here. The floor is not soaking wet, at least what I'm standing on. Now it is, of course, underneath it. Now underneath here, you can see how dirty and grimy it is from all of that iron removing wheel cleaner. See all of that pink? Notice how it's flowing towards the floor drain. So again, after I'm done washing here, it is rinsing all of this down. It is just kind of filthy and nasty inside of here. Again, apologies, it's a little hard to see, but you can clearly see the dirt and grime. And all I do is grab my pressure washer here when I go home and I just rinse this. And then I can come back in and I pull this up here. And after I pull that up, you'll see it's nice and clean underneath. That is the great part about all of these channels. And it just works so flippin' well for this. Well, it surely wouldn't be an out of spec detailing video here if I didn't show you some snow foam action. And again, this is just the coolest part about it. I'm not trudging around in water. I can still see the dirt and grime coming through the tiles here. Again, it's a little harder to see there, but you can see the dirt sitting in there. So after I'm done washing the car, I dry it off. I either go home for the night or pull the car into the bay over there. I just spend a little time and rinse this. Yes, there is maintenance involved, but this is the exact same maintenance I was doing if I was having epoxy here, because every single time I washed a car, I would have to break out the pressure washer again, rinse the entire floor to either outside or the drain, and then I'd squeegee it. There is literally no difference. It does take a slight bit longer to actually rinse out the Swisstrax, just being with how they are, but I don't mind spending time doing that. And again, it's the maintenance aspect of it. I am totally okay spending 5 minutes rinsing down the floor before I go home for the night, rather than, you know, just having my floor look like crap all the time. So that's why I'm doing it. A couple of other points here I want to make. A lot of people have asked, what is the slickness of this floor? Well, you can see I have very slick snow foam on here. There is absolutely zero fall risk, and it's actually impressively slip resistant. It's not to say you can't fall on this, of course, but it's way less slick than I think you would think it is. Actually, funny enough, that brings up a really funny point with epoxy. If you don't know, when you first get it done, it is a frickin' skating rink. Even though you have all of those chips, the first month or two before you start kind of wearing it down a little bit, get all the chemicals and get that kind of slickness away. Again, I had kind of the chip one, which is better for slip resistance. It is a flippin' skating rink. And also the other point about that, I had so many people say, Colton, you should have just done polished concrete. That's the best way to go. You don't have to deal with any of that stuff. Guys, have you ever walked into a Costco and somebody spilled something on the floor and understand why they swarm that to clean up the floors? It's because it is unbelievably slick to have polished concrete. It would never work here. I would probably need ice skates here to just walk around here. It is so slick, and it's just not possible here at the shop. But again, you can see all the snow foam here. It's not even sitting barely on top of the tiles. It's all underneath here, and that is just the flippin' coolest thing with this floor. So man, I just absolutely love it. So I'm going to rinse the car off here quickly. We'll finish off this video, but got to tell you guys, I've been really impressed by this. Again, it's not to say it's perfect. Yes, there's times where I'm going to have to tear up this floor in this area and probably clean it. I'm okay doing that as long as my shop continues to look this good. And again, if I just never rinse the floor down and never clean anything up, hell yeah, it's going to look nasty. It's going to get grimy. And same would happen with epoxy, and same happens with everything. If you never wash your car, the thing's going to look like crap in a couple years, isn't it? If you frequently maintain it and keep it nice, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh, it's going to look nice. It's crazy how all these concepts come together with detailing. All right, so before we actually rinse down the floor here, I want to talk about one thing that I was actually really concerned about these floors, and that was turning on them. So most people's garage, you just pull in, pull right out. You're not doing any turning here. So even kind of dry steering this, I have no issues doing that. I don't really recommend that. So, you know, always try and be moving while you're putting any steering input into it. The way I have my shop, sorry for the beeps here, I have to make quite an aggressive turn out of here. So you can see I'm almost at full lock. I try and not put it at full lock, and I have yet to have a tile unclip on me, and I just pull right out. So that is one thing, and one thing I was really scared of that actually works surprisingly well. So let me show you what it looks like after the floor has been washed, or after a wash, and we'll rinse it down. We'll call it a video, call it a night. All right, so you can see I pulled the car out now. I want to show you guys what it looks like underneath the floor. So you can see some dirt and grime in between here, as well as on top of the tiles. So if I actually pull this up here, you can see it's quite dirty, quite grimy under there. Now this car was not completely filthy, right? It just had some general dirt and grime on it. But if you've got a car that's got like mud on it, I would probably not recommend doing it on this floor. So that is one of the drawbacks with this. Be totally transparent with you. Like if I get a detail and a car just is caked in mud, I'm going to take it over to the wash bay over there, and it's going to be a whole heck of a lot easier to clean up. But general dirt and grime, not a problem washing on this. So I'm going to rinse down the floor here, and I'll peel that section back up, show you what it looks like after I've rinsed it. We're not going to get it 100% clean, and that's totally okay. I don't care what's under there as long as we're not producing that mold, that mildew, and just leaving that kind of nastiness under there. You're going to have a little dirt and grime. It's going to be okay though. All right, and so that same area we just rinsed here, pop that up. Look at that, folks. Nice and clean underneath. So the channels do their job. All right, guys, finished up for the night, and it's just crazy here. This is what just blows my mind after experiencing and living with that epoxy for the last 5 years. And this would just be a swamp in here. And now the floor looks perfectly clean after a wash. I just rinsed the floor down. And again, I had to do the same thing with the epoxy, but it's not soaking wet still. Even with the squeegee, you've got water laying everywhere. This just looks perfectly clean. You can hear it's squeaky. Maybe you can't, it's coming through a mic, but you can walk around in here and not just tread water. It is so nice. So I hope I answered a lot of your questions, and I think at the end of the day, what you should know, do I regret Swisstrax? Absolutely not. And in fact, I'm kind of kicking myself wishing I would have done this 5 years ago, never dealt with epoxy. I think I would have been so much happier. Now, it's not to say this is going to be a perfect lifetime with this floor. There are some drawbacks to it. It's a pain in the butt when you get down on your hands and knees. It hurts like hell. So have a knee pad on it. You do still have to rinse it and maintain it. Again, I think that's okay. If you guys are watching this channel, you know detailing, we clean and maintain our cars. It's the same exact thing. If you just never take care of your car, never wash it, obviously it's going to look like hell in a couple of years, isn't it? So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.